So knowing that kind of juxtaposition between, I'm trying to sell the house, or I'm trying to help my customer buy the house, but also like not being too showboaty is something that I kind of like learned in entertainment in terms of like people pitching to us. It's like, yeah, that's a good idea, but you kind of oversold it.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals from across the country, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with Thaddeus Dunnings, real estate agent with Berkshire Hathaway Tomie Raines in the greater Lansing area, Michigan. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Thad, for being with me here today.
Thank you.
You are an agent, but I want to roll it back because your resume is wild. Okay. Some highlights are you were an executive assistant with comedy development at 20th Century Fox. You worked at Sony. You were an agent trainee at Gersh, which is a really big talent agency. If you don't know what Gersh is, like all the A-listers are represented by them. You should look it up.
Yeah, it's one of the top 5.
Yeah. You were an executive assistant at HBO. So you had obviously this stint in California where you worked a lot in the entertainment industry. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so basically I went to boarding school at Cranbrook, which is right outside of Detroit in Bloomfield Hills, and then was kind of like, okay, I did the hour and a half away thing. I want to go even further, and have always been like very much enthused by the entertainment industry. So USC is where I went to undergrad, and probably the best place to break into the entertainment industry in terms of education. So went out to USC in 2008 and lived there for 8 years. And so got my undergraduate degree and then worked at Gersh as a agent trainee. And then after that, I worked for the president of HBO for 2 years. Following that, then I did go to Fox and worked for 2 senior vice presidents in comedy development, which is kind of like, people come in, pitch ideas, and then we develop them, and they either go to pilot or not, and then maybe get picked up to series. And following that, I went to Sony and worked for the head of current series. So I was responsible for overseeing or helping oversee shows like Breaking Bad and trying to think of some other ones, but like a bunch of different shows that Sony produced as a independent contractor, and then they would get sold to networks.
That is so cool. So did you know when you went out to California that you're like, I want to work in entertainment? That was the goal?
Well, I loved Entourage, so
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to be Ari Gold. I'm going to be the biggest agent. And then I was like, maybe not an agent. But that kind of parlays into being a real estate agent, because I knew that I definitely had like the marketing tools inherent to work in sales, whether it's selling a house, selling a client for a movie, for a show. So yeah, that definitely like parlayed into where I'm at now. But yeah, I originally thought I wanted to be an agent, and then kind of decided like I did like more of the creative side and like working on the shows. But then unfortunately my dad got pretty sick during COVID and recently passed away. So
I'm
that
so
brought me
sorry.
back to Lansing, which is where I was born and raised. So that's why I'm here now.
And then you transitioned to real estate once you got back to
It was
Michigan.
kind of like, now that I'm here, like I need to do something that's not a kind of blue collar. Okay, cut that.
Yeah, no. But now that you're back, maybe we get the film incentives, and then maybe you do both, right? Then
Right.
Would you consider like moving back into the entertainment sphere?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like even on the way here, I had the idea of like calling the Lansing State Journal and being like, I think we should do like a 35 under 30 or 35 under 35 real estate agents, because that was something that they did in
Yeah.
Hollywood a lot. They do like the top 35 agents under 35 or the top 35 executives under 35. So I thought that could be like a cool piece, especially since there's a ton of realtors
Yeah.
and young realtors.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to highlight that, and the diversity, and the market is really growing right now.
That's
So,
cool. You should definitely pitch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard it here first, guys. Well, that is so cool. So I I'm an actor as well. And
Okay.
I lived in Atlanta for 5 years, and I worked as crew on film and television sets. So,
Oh, wow.
like, I saw your stuff, and I'm like, this is my people. This is so exciting. Now, you were definitely a little more on the, like, executive side. I did work in the production office on Ozark, so I kind of got a little more
Oh my
of
gosh,
that.
one
like,
of my favorite shows.
Yeah, more of that, like, kind of production suite producer, lens.
Yeah.
But that's so cool. Oh, well, I'm so glad you're back here. I'm sorry for the circumstances that brought you here, but I'm glad it brought us here together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today. So, circling back to your California time, you studied law, yes?
Oh yeah, I kind of skipped that part.
Yeah.
I also got my law degree. So once I decided to stop working in the entertainment industry, I was like, I'm gonna go to law school because my dad's entire family are lawyers. My aunt is a judge. My uncle was a prosecutor.
Wow.
My grandfather on my dad's side was the first African American lawyer in Lansing. So it was kind of in my blood the entire time. So that was one of the reasons I was like, I'm going to go to law school. And then I should have kind of did the trajectory a little bit better.
It's all good.
It was law school, then my dad got sick, then I moved back. But yeah, so it was just kind of in the blood, and we have a bunch of lawyers. My aunt also lives in D.C. She's a lawyer.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's in the blood.
Yeah.
And do you find kind of that knowledge, even, no one says you can't be the real estate lawyer, but do you find like all of that knowledge? I'm sure you learned so much about contracts.
I was just going to say,
yeah,
it's
it
so
just folds
advantageous.
right in. Yeah.
Like to have the contract knowledge, the terminology, to nitpick at where you think things are not correct. When you're dealing with purchase agreements and listing agreements and all the above that are involved in real estate.
That makes you like such an all-star for your clients.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm sure they say it too. So that is so amazing. So you're a Lansing area native. You're back here. You've been away. You saw other things. Some might say greener pastures.
I was going to say greener pastures.
I was going to say, why would I say that? Lansing's so great.
Especially with the weather the last 2 days.
Oh, yeah, it's been beautiful.
Yeah,
it's finally
so
spring.
nice. I know.
What do you love so much about Lansing? What do you love showing your clients about the Lansing area?
Just the community, being involved. Like, there's one thing to be in LA and all the kind of glamour and, the beaches and the, what have you. But, like, being back in Lansing where there's family and community and, helping clients find areas where they want their kids to grow up and where, they might have a network that they want or of people that they want to join in a certain neighborhood or a certain school district. You don't have that in LA. It's like,
Right.
What private school can you get into,
Yeah, I would imagine it's just culturally very different.
Yeah. And I just love the familial aspect and, close-knit community.
That's cool. And so when you are working with your clients, like what is kind of your process? Like how do you start out when someone comes to you, I want to buy or sell my home? Like what is kind of the first thing you do with them?
So the first thing is definitely like walking through their home or walking through a list of like properties that they're potentially interested in or like a price point and then giving that or that like they present a price point and then giving them homes in the area or within that range in different neighborhoods and kind of sussing out where they would want to be. But I think it's really important to just like understand the client and listen to the client because especially when you are listing, people are very attached to their homes, whether or not they've lived there for a year or for 34 years, as my mother's just moving. She's lived in her house for 34 years.
Oh, wow.
People are just very attached to their homes or attached to the community or what have you. So I think just really listening and trying to figure out where they want to be, what price point they're at, not to push them to a higher price point, but show them stuff that might be a little over, a little under, not done as well as they wanted it to be, might need upgrades. Do they want to do upgrade? Just asking all those kind of fundamental questions that both sellers and buyers kind of deal with. Because if you're representing a seller, they're buying.
Right. So you're hoping that you're doing both.
It's basically the same line of questions.
Totally. And do you have any like kind of favorite client stories?
Yeah, I do. So before I was officially in real estate. My father and my parents were planning to move, so I was taking my dad just like around to open houses, but I wasn't a real estate agent. And we went to a home, and as we were walking out, a client walked up the driveway, or well, now she's my client, but
Oh,
she
okay.
wasn't at the time.
We see where it's going.
Yeah, so she walked up the driveway, and I said, yeah, I don't think this is going to be the place for you, but there is one around the corner. We're about to go look at it, my dad and I. And so she came with us, and then lo and behold, 2 weeks later, she gave me her number. I called her and helped her purchase that home for her and her husband, and am now under contract selling their last home.
Wow.
Just walking out of a random house in the driveway, meeting her. It was pretty cool. I mean, and that was my first sale, and now I'm selling it right now.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's very fortuitous.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing stories like that. And you hear it from people all the time. You just kind of have to like make it known like who you are and what you're doing and kind of be out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the best pieces of advice that I got when I was starting was from one of the agents at Berkshire, and he was telling a group of us that were just starting to drive around and look at for sale by owner signs, because they don't have agents. They don't know how to use they don't know how to work the system. They don't know how to take pictures. They don't know MLS. They don't know, all the requirements by GLAR and et cetera. So I picked up another client that way as well. I was driving around a neighborhood in Hazlitt and saw a for sale by owner sign, and they had no idea what they were doing. And they were like, it's been on the market for like 3 months. I'm like, well, is it on MLS? Like, do you know,
Right. They're probably like selling it on Facebook Marketplace.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I've
Like,
got
you
that.
do need an agent. That's kind of why you guys hire us.
It's wild times that you could just go on Facebook Marketplace where you can buy patio furniture or a house.
Right.
And
Or
like,
a car,
or
or whatever.
wild times. and I've talked to other agents about kind of that same thing of these traps that people will fall into when they try to kind of sell their things themselves. They can open themselves up to lawsuits or
Right.
just all of these things. And I think, I don't know. What do you think? I want to ask you, because you know more than me. I'm thinking, why do you think people just try to like for sale by owner?
I think that they think that they're going to save like all the commission and all the seller's cost or buyer's cost that they don't really understand is what goes into having somebody represent you. And there's tons of loopholes of legality and stuff that you want somebody that's actually at a brokerage to have the staff, have the actual contracts and stuff to really help you make sure that it's like gonna end up well.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know the paragraph 37 or whatever that says X, Y, and Z. You need somebody that's actually in the industry to help explain it to you, to make sure that you have a great transaction and your buyers have a great transaction and everybody has, their forever home.
Yeah, and probably something that's legally binding, because these are probably the same people that are like Googling like house contract.
Right,
and it just
right.
all feels very
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, you're like, that might not actually be what this, real estate association in the area uses. So, like, just because you found that could be from, like, Sacramento, California. That's not necessarily, like, the Ingham County, Eaton County, Clinton County, etc., what they use. And so you might find yourself in a bind.
Yeah, and probably wasting a whole bunch of time. Like, let's
Right,
be real.
Right. Like, we have it ready to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't sit on Google for 3 hours trying to figure out what you're doing when I could help you.
Totally. Do you have any, like, if you were to start over again today, I know you've just been, you're a little fresher on the scene, but I think we learned so much, especially like in that first 12 months, in the first couple of years. If you were to start over again today, is there anything you would be doing differently?
I mean, a lot of times, especially in coaching, like when I was starting out at Berkshire, they would talk about like farming, and I think that it can be a little like a little overwhelming thinking about that aspect of like farming a neighborhood. Like I don't have a neighborhood to farm. But I think it's not so much like neighborhood area. I mean, it is, but also like at your gym, you know, at your kid's school, like if you're an agent with kids at a school, like just like really leveraging those kind of networks that you have inherently just without even like thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're taking your dogs on a walk and you see someone you know, hey, here's my card. I think that's like really the best way to just kind of organically create a network as opposed to like going door to door and feeling really awkward or like, you know, going into a business and handing out your card. Just leveraging the organic experiences that you have, like I said, whether it's like your kid's school, your gym, your what have you.
I love that. Would you say any of your experience from, I mean, we talked about how like the law school just folds right into that contract, but I love your past in entertainment. Do you think there's any things you learned from your time in the entertainment industry that like really work in your favor for real estate?
Definitely. I mean, I think knowing how to, and I don't want to keep saying the same buzzword, organically, like kind of produce, like, you know, this is the house, and like walk through the house, and you're trying to sell it, obviously, but you don't want to be like overly salesman-y. So knowing that kind of juxtaposition between, yeah, I'm trying to sell the house, or yeah, I'm trying to help my customer buy the house, but also like not being too showboaty is something that I kind of like learned in entertainment in terms of like people pitching to us. It's like, yeah, that's a good idea, but you kind of oversold it.
Oh, okay. So like let's
Or undersold it.
okay. Let's dive a little deeper. Like what do you think are things that fall into like overselling?
So I think you really just have to read the room. Like, there are definitely some clients that are like, I love the, you know, crown molding. I love the beat board. I love the fixtures. Oh, wow, that's a Viking stove versus another client that might not even know what a Viking stove is. You know, you just kind of have to read your client in order to know what things to pick out. Like, the person that might not like the Viking stove or care about appliances, they might love the fact that you pointed out that there's like all this study space for their 4 kids, or both at the same time, you know?
Yeah. Do you think there's like a way to, if maybe someone feels like they're struggling with that, if there's a way to get better at kind of like reading people and reading the room?
I think definitely shadowing some of the more experienced agents. And that doesn't mean, especially in my opinion, it doesn't mean taking everything that you see them do and applying that to the way that you market or sell or buy with your clients. But I think seeing 5 different agent styles and then kind of amalgamizing them into your style is really helpful, because, you know, this agent might overprice, this agent might underprice, this agent might over specify, like, oh my god, look at how many volts this, you know, backup system has for your Tesla, and you're like, okay, my client doesn't care about that, but like you might have a client that does, and you can kind of pick that up. And so, oh, so and so said this to their client when I was shadowing them, so and so said this to their, like, it helps to kind of get very well balanced way to pitch or help your client or your seller, what seller buyer.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've done a lot of that then, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think shadowing. So to make it just very simple, I think shadowing a lot of different agents up front and different price points is very advantageous.
Ooh, I love that. Different price points too.
Yeah, because like you don't market a $100,000 house the same way that you market a $1 million house. So it's like seeing how both people do that, and then what if you have a $400,000 house? Like now you can kind of take a little bit from the $1 million and a little bit from the 100 and mesh them.
Yeah, and I think like even if you're like, oh gosh, like I don't know when I'm ever gonna get to sell $1 million house, like be prepared now.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like,
and the other thing I would say is just because your first sale might have been your mom's best friend and it was $500,000 house, don't not look into the $100,000, $200,000 market. Don't close the door to anything. Getting your name out there, having as many sales as you can. Yeah, maybe in 10 years, but starting out, you don't want to close the door to any sort of market or any neighborhood or any area. I mean, take what you can and roll with it.
Certainly, yeah, because especially if that person is like a first-time home buyer, they're
Right.
probably going to need a bigger home sometimes.
They'll be your forever client.
Yeah.
So you want to help them get into that $150,000 house, and then in 3 years they get promoted and they're in a $500,000 house. So, yeah, never close the door to any potential client.
Speaking of that forever client, like, what do you think it really takes as the agent, to make sure your people come back to you?
So, actually, one of the sales that I did recently was a buy-sell. And I think, I don't know if a lot of people do this, and I think it's important to do a unique thing to yourself. So I do, they're not hand-painted, but, it's on Etsy. They're, they look hand-painted pictures of the house.
Oh, I love that.
So just having, some sort of, niche gift that, every time they walk down their front hallway, they're going to look at that and be like, Thaddeus gave that to me when we sold or when we bought the house, just having some sort of kind of cool. I know another agent that I work with, she does pies right the day before Thanksgiving to all her previous clients, delivers pies. Just something to stay on top of mind in case they are moving, in case their daughter's moving, their grandkids are moving, whatever. But also just something unique, not just a simple, here's my business card again,
Right.
Having kind of your own unique way to resonate with the client, and also keep on top of mind in case they know someone or they need to move again.
I love that. And I love the thing about your gift, the kind of the custom print of their home, we'll call it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a lot better the way to describe it than I'm it's not a drawing, but
it's like because it's not an advertisement for you,
right.
It's such a better advertisement for you.
Exactly. It's I'm not putting a billboard of myself in your front yard, It's this is a great photo. And they've posted it on social media, our realtor gave us this amazing, picture of our house.
And then, oh my gosh, I just thought of this. Here's how it's even next level. This is 4D chess. This is a great idea that you had. Because then I'm sure people come over and
right.
they see it and they say it. And
yeah.
they go, oh, my real estate agent Thaddeus got that for me. Oh, I'm looking to buy or sell a home.
Exactly.
It sparks conversation. This is great. Everyone should do it. And then give Thad a penny every time.
Yeah, throw me a penny and hopefully I'll
That's his commission off of his great idea. Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
And too, it's it's there forever,
Yeah.
So it's not like a bottle of wine that's gone. It's a talking point when people come in, as you said, and they're looking at it all the time, so they're remembering, let me refer him. That picture is awesome.
And it's something you can keep from house to house. My in-laws, they have now I do think it is a hand painting. I don't know where they got it done, but they have a painting of their first home.
Yeah.
And I just think that's really sweet. When I moved away, my best friend on Etsy, I gotta love Etsy. This is not an advertisement.
I'm new to Etsy, but
oh, it's been around.
It's
You've got a
working
lot
well.
to explore. But my best friend got me a drawing done of my the home I grew up in, and so it's definitely a thing that's out there, and it's something I love. It's a great
wait,
memory.
I thought I was being original.
You
no,
are
it's out there.
But
No, I'm
okay, I don't
joking.
know any other agents who are doing this. Let's be real. These are just friends and people probably doing it for themselves. But that's really cool because
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people would think about that. And even it's we're in such a photography era. You can take a picture whenever you want.
Right.
But this is different. It's
Yeah.
so much more personal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I haven't gotten much time to talk to anybody about their gifts, but I think if I was an agent, I would be all about the gifts. I think it would be
Well, and I know too, especially to agents starting out, there is economic barrier to entry. So like talking about gifts can seem kind of like, oh my gosh, I just spent all this money on classes and tests and my agency fees and glory. So don't be afraid of that whole economic initial barrier. Just know that it'll pay off.
Yeah.
Because that $200 picture that you sent them is going to be a $200,000 house.
Yeah.
Or their neighbor or their aunt, or so it can be a little bit of a pill to swallow initially, but it really does pay off.
Yeah. And there's like, if you're like, okay, Thaddeus, like $200 for this Etsy painting is like too much for me. I think there are a lot of like creative ways. I'm sure the pies are not $200.
Right.
There's a lot of different creative ways that you can do that client retention.
Exactly.
Without it just being your business card.
Yep. Totally.
Oh.
And I think that's super important.
Yeah. Gosh, I love that so much. What are some of the things you're looking forward to this year?
The market picking up.
Yeah.
Interest rates lowering, hopefully, fingers crossed. And I mean, I can't imagine that it's so much nicer to be selling houses when it's not -20. So
summer, yeah.
regardless of interest rates, at least it's fun to show people, and especially when the school year ends and people are looking to transition to school districts, communities. It's fun when people have children and stuff, and they're looking to kind of get that next step in life. It's fun to help people find their next journey.
Yeah. Wow, we're really getting to the good part, and I can't wait for you to hear what comes next. But first, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to make sure you're following the Closing Table podcast wherever it is you get your podcasts. Also, please leave us a comment or review. It is the best no-cost thing you can do for the podcast, and it helps us find more awesome listeners like you. While I have you, I'd also like to highlight our sponsor. WindowStill provides premium real estate media for agents, builders, and property management companies nationwide. To learn more, visit windowstill.com. WindowStill, helping America find their next chapter. Now, back to the episode. Would you say that the spring and summer are your busiest seasons?
I mean, I would say from like a familial standpoint, like people with children, they, don't want to abruptly do anything during the school year. So they start to look around April, and then into like June is when it really picks up in terms of people wanting to, and then again move before school starts in August. So that would be like the family kind of move. But then again, like a lot of people are moving from in and out of town. So that doesn't really evolve around the school year. So it just kind of depends who your clientele is. And hopefully you have multiple,
right.
Somebody from Florida coming back home for their grandkids, somebody moving from Lansing to Okemos for the school district. So it really just kind of depends. But I think looking at houses when it's nice out is definitely a better situation than trying to drag people through the snow.
Yes, for sure. So you've done so many different things in like, I would say kind of a short amount of time. How do you...
That's flattering. Thank you.
I
mean, feel like it's been 20 years, but
and
appreciate it.
I get that too, but you've kind of pivoted your career like so many different ways. Like how do you kind of manage it? Like how do you manage like the mental shift from one thing to the next?
I think it's just about being passionate about what you're doing. I mean, like like I said at the beginning, my dad and I growing up used to go to Sunday open houses all the time. I've always loved houses. I've always loved television. I've always loved movies. My mom was actually an actress as well.
Oh, wow.
She did a lot of commercials. She did theater a lot. I grew up in a theatrical background as well. So I think you just have to be passionate about what you're doing, and that's how you pivot. And it's not even really, I wouldn't even use the word pivot because it's just channeling a different part of who you are that's always been there.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Yeah, because I think we are.
That sounded cheesy.
No, it's like, well, but okay, so sometimes the really cheesy things are true. Like the cliches, There's like an amount of truth. And I think people are very multifaceted and have a lot of talents. And obviously you have a lot of talents that are really on display as a real estate agent, as this people person, this storyteller, I think that's really cool for you.
Well, I think too, like, especially if you're gonna like, I feel like there's a lot of people that get into real estate because they think that they can just sell houses, but like, you have to also be somebody that's. I love exposed brick.
Don't you?
I love the way that they did this bathroom with the, marble tile or the Carrera marble on the countertop. You really have to be somebody. I mean, I'm not going to opine on what every real estate agent needs to do, but like, that's another reason why it just felt natural, is because those are the things when I would look at houses with my dad or just houses in general, I'd be like, oh my gosh, look at that, that attention to detail. I love the different color, what have you. So that's what I hope makes me successful in the real estate industry. But
I think it will. I think it's right. There's a lot of ups and downs, but I think there are in any industry. And I think if you really have that passion for it, that fosters resilience, which then, gets you at the other end of the tunnel.
yeah. And just, you can't get down on yourself. I mean, it is a very volatile industry, just like pretty much any industry. Cars, entertainment. I mean, there was a writer's strike. There were no new TV shows. Like, everything is very up and down, no matter what you're doing for the most part. So just having the resilience and the passion to stay engaged and motivated.
Yeah. I kind of think, I don't know what it's like working for film executives in California, but I kind of think
Not that fun.
if anybody can work for a film executive, and there are some great ones out there, and then there are some challenging ones out there. I think if you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn resilience for sure. Trust me.
Oh my goodness. Well, Thaddeus, this has been a great conversation. Do you want to direct people how they can find you and potentially work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Thaddeus, Thaddeus Dunnings, Dunnings, and I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Tomie Raines. And my telephone number is 517-290-0381. And my email address is tdunnings@tomieraines.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And we will link all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Thaddeus.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been the Closing Table Podcast, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. If you are enjoying this podcast, please make sure you are following us on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you are liking and subscribed. It helps us find more awesome listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Kat, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.